The air in Little Kingston, Brooklyn, was a thick, humid blend of jerk spice, diesel fumes, and the ever-present, throbbing heartbeat of bass-heavy reggae. It was a sound that didn't just travel through the air, it vibrated up through the soles of your shoes, a constant, comforting rhythm that defined the neighborhood. Here, nestled between a brightly painted bakery and a bustling hair salon, lived Kofi Marley, a boy of 12 years with a soul far older than his age. Kofi was a quiet child, often found sitting on the worn stoop of their brownstone, his small hands sketching intricate patterns in a well-loved notebook. He wore the colors of his heritage, red, gold, and green, not as a costume, but as a second skin, woven into the fabric of his small, sturdy frame. To the world, he was Kofi. To his grandfather, Rastafari, he was Jah Lion, a nickname earned not from ferocity, but from the quiet, unshakable strength that resided in his deep, thoughtful eyes. Rastafari was the anchor of Kofi's world. A man whose own dreadlocks were streaked with the silver of 65 years, he was a former musician who had traded the stage lights of Kingston for the quiet wisdom of a community elder. His basement was their sanctuary, a low-ceilinged, dimly lit space that smelled of old wood and incense. It was a makeshift studio, filled with stacks of dusty vinyl records, a battered acoustic guitar, and a drum kit that had seen better decades. Here, Kofi learned not just the chords and the melodies, but the profound, revolutionary message embedded in the music. Music is the weapon of the future, Little Lion, Rastafari would say, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. It is the only weapon that can break down walls without shedding blood. You must learn to wield it not with your voice alone, but with your heart. Kofi's voice, when he finally let it out, was a revelation. It was a pure, soulful tenor, untrained but brimming with a raw, emotional power that could silence a room. He sang the old songs, the anthems of struggle and hope, and in his voice, Rastafari heard the echo of a lineage that stretched back to the very roots of the movement, but the rhythm of their life was about to be disrupted. The local community center, the heart of Little Kingston, was facing closure. A cold, impersonal notice had been taped to the door, citing rising property taxes and a lack of funding. Kofi was heartbroken. The center was where he played football, where he got his tutoring, and where Rastafari held his weekly youth music workshop. To save the roots, you must plant a seed in the biggest garden, Rastafari told him one evening, his eyes fixed on the flickering flame of a candle. He had been looking at a small, flickering screen, a clip of a massive stage, flashing lights, and a panel of judges. America's Got Talent. It is a stage for the world, Kofi. A platform to raise not just money, but awareness. To show them that our roots are worth saving. Kofi stared at the screen, his stomach twisting into a knot of fear and excitement. The thought of singing in front of thousands, in front of the famously critical Simon Cowell, was terrifying. But the thought of the community center closing was worse. He nodded, a silent vow passing between the boy and the elder. The lion cub was ready to roar. The journey to the stage, the audition tape, was a simple affair. They set up a single microphone in the basement studio. Kofi, wearing his favorite Rasta tam and a hand-me-down dashiki, sang a raw, powerful version of a classic protest song. There were no fancy edits, no studio polish, just the truth of his voice and the steady, guiding rhythm of Rastafari on the acoustic guitar. Rastafari insisted they send it as is. They need to hear the soul, not the shine, he declared. The call came on a cold Tuesday afternoon, shattering the quiet of their small apartment. A producer, her voice a flurry of professional excitement, told them they were intrigued by the authenticity of the tape. They wanted Kofi, the Jah Lion, to fly to Pasadena for the live auditions. Kofi was terrified. He paced the small living room, his hands clammy. "I can't, grandfather. I'll forget the words. They'll laugh at my clothes. They'll tell me to go home." Rastafari placed a hand on his shoulder, his grip firm and reassuring. "Fear is just excitement without breath, Little Lion. Breathe. You are not going there to win a prize. You are going there to deliver a message. The prize is secondary to the purpose." The sheer scale of the Dolby Theater in Pasadena was overwhelming. It was a cathedral of modern entertainment, all polished chrome, flashing lights, and hushed, hurried activity. The air backstage was thick with the scent of hairspray and nervous energy. Kofi felt small, clutching his microphone like a lifeline. He watched the other contestants, magicians with elaborate props, dancers in sequined costumes, and singers with voices honed by years of professional training. They were all polished, professional, and seemingly fearless. A wave of doubt washed over him. He looked down at his simple, hand-stitched Rasta colors. He felt like an anomaly, a piece of the Brooklyn street transplanted onto a Hollywood soundstage. Rastafari, sensing his grandson's turmoil, gently adjusted Kofi's Rasta tam. "Look at them, Kofi," he whispered, his eyes twinkling with ancient wisdom. "They are here to compete. They are here to be judged. You are not. You are here to deliver a message. You are here to represent the roots. Do not compete with them. Just be the lion." The words settled Kofi's nerves. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and let the familiar rhythm of the bass line from his grandfather's guitar fill his mind. He was not a contestant, he was an ambassador. Part 3, The Moment of Truth. Next up, we have Kofi Marley, all the way from Brooklyn, New York. The announcement boomed through the massive auditorium. Kofi walked onto the stage, the bright spotlights blinding him momentarily. The audience offered a polite, curious applause. He could see the 4 judges at their table, their faces a mixture of expectation and fatigue. And there, in the center, was the man whose opinion held the most weight, the ultimate arbiter of talent, Simon Cowell. Simon's expression was one of weary skepticism, a slight, almost imperceptible roll of the eyes that suggested he had seen it all before. Kofi stood at the center of the stage, his hands gripping the microphone stand. He was a small figure against the vast backdrop, his Rasta colors a defiant splash of warmth against the cold, blue stage lights. Heidi Klum, her face warm and encouraging, was the first to speak. "Welcome, Kofi. Tell us a little about yourself. And what is that wonderful hat you are wearing?" "Thank you, ma'am," Kofi said, his voice surprisingly steady. "My name is Kofi, but my grandfather calls me Jah Lion. And this is my tam. It holds my dreadlocks, and it holds my spirit. The Lion of Judah is a symbol of strength and freedom in my culture." Simon, leaning back in his chair, interjected with a dry, almost bored tone. "And what are you going to sing for us, Jah Lion? Something by Bob Marley, I presume. A classic, perhaps." The question was a subtle challenge, a suggestion that Kofi was merely a novelty act, a tribute to a legend. Kofi shook his head, his gaze meeting Simon's for a brief, intense moment. "I will sing an original song, sir," Kofi replied. "It is called, Concrete Jungle Bloom. It is about where I come from, and what we are fighting for." A ripple of murmurs went through the audience. An original song was a risk, especially for a 12-year-old. Simon merely raised an eyebrow, a silent air in his eyes. The music started. It was a simple, yet profound arrangement. A lone, driving bass line, a crisp, steady drum beat, and a clean, melodic keyboard riff. Kofi closed his eyes, and the stage lights, the audience, and the judges all faded away. He was back in the basement, singing for his grandfather, singing for his community. He began to sing. Verse 1. His voice was soft at first, a melodic opening that painted a picture of his neighborhood, the cracked pavement, the boarded-up windows, the struggle. Sunrise on the asphalt, another day to climb, the shadows of the skyscrapers steal away the time, they call it a concrete jungle. They say nothing grows but they don't see the spirit in the seeds that the wind sows. The audience was silent, leaning forward, captivated. This was not the happy, tourist-friendly reggae they expected. This was the deep, conscious sound of a young soul grappling with real-world issues. Then came the chorus. Kofi's voice soared. It was no longer a child's voice, it was a voice that had seen things, felt things, a voice that carried the weight of 1,000 years of history, raw and full of unbridled passion. The music swelled, the rhythm becoming a powerful, irresistible force. Chorus, Jah Lion, hear the roar. From the bottom to the top, we won't let the music fade, we won't let the message stop, let the concrete jungle bloom with the flower of one love. Lift your hands to the sky, to the Father up above. The transformation was complete. Kofi was no longer a shy boy. He was a vessel for the music, a conduit for a message of hope and resilience. The audience began to sway, their hands rising instinctively to the rhythm. The energy in the room shifted from polite curiosity to something akin to reverence. Part 4, the stunned reaction. The song built to a crescendo. Kofi, his eyes now open, looked directly into the camera, his expression intense and focused. He hit a high, sustained note, pouring every ounce of his 12-year-old soul into the final, powerful line. his voice cracking slightly with the sheer force of his emotion. Let the concrete jungle bloom with the flower of one love. Then, silence. For a single, agonizing beat, the massive auditorium was absolutely silent. The only sound was the faint echo of the final drum beat. The camera, in a masterful stroke of television drama, focused on the judges. Heidi Klum was visibly wiping a tear from her eye. Howie Mandel was shaking his head slowly, a look of profound respect on his face. And then, the camera cut to Simon Cowell. The image that would soon be plastered across the internet, the image that defined the moment, was captured in that instant. Simon's mouth was agape, his jaw slack. His eyes, usually narrowed in critical assessment, were wide, startled, and utterly disbelieving. The weary skepticism was gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated shock. He had been genuinely stunned. It was the moment he realized he was witnessing something truly special, something that transcended the usual talent show fare. He was not just watching a performance, he was experiencing a moment of pure, unadulterated truth. The silence was broken by a single, thunderous roar. The audience erupted. It was not just applause, it was a wave of sound, a standing ovation that lasted for a full minute. People were on their feet, cheering, whistling, and chanting Kofi's stage name, Jah Lion. Jah Lion. Kofi stood there, blinking in the confetti of light, his chest heaving, the sheer force of the audience's reaction washing over him. Part 5. The verdict and the future. When the applause finally subsided, the judges were still visibly shaken. Heidi Klum, her voice thick with emotion, was the first to speak. Kofi, that was soul. You are a little old man in a 12-year-old body. You have the wisdom of a king. You didn't just sing a song, you gave us a sermon. Thank you. Howie Mandel leaned forward, his usual comedic demeanor replaced by a serious intensity. I've seen a lot of acts on this stage, but I've never been so moved. You didn't just sing, you preached. And I'm a believer. That song, Concrete Jungle Bloom, that is an anthem. You are a star, young man. The tension in the room was palpable as all eyes turned to Simon. He slowly stood up, a rare gesture that commanded immediate silence. The crowd hushed, waiting for the inevitable, sharp critique. Simon cleared his throat, his voice uncharacteristically soft, almost reverent. Jah Lion, he began, using the boy's stage name with genuine respect. I came here today expecting a novelty act. I was wrong, terribly wrong. I expected a child to sing a cover of a famous song, and I was ready to tell you that you need more time, more polish. He paused, looking directly at Kofi, his eyes holding a new, profound respect. That was not just a performance. That was a moment that will be remembered on this stage for years to come. You have a message, you have a voice, and you have a purpose. And that, young man, is what true talent is. You are a superstar. Then, in a move that sent the audience into a frenzy, Simon reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and slammed the golden buzzer. The sound was deafening. A shower of golden confetti rained down from the ceiling, swirling around Kofi, coating the stage in a shimmering blanket of gold. The crowd went wild, their cheers reaching a fever pitch. Kofi, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the moment, could only stand there, tears streaming down his face. He had done it. He had delivered the message. He ran off the stage, dodging the golden confetti, and into the waiting arms of Rastafari, who held him tight. You did it, little lion, Rastafari whispered, his own eyes glistening. You roared. Kofi looked up at his grandfather, the golden confetti settling on his Rasta hat, a crown of victory and purpose. He didn't just win a round on a talent show, he had delivered his message to the world. The community center would be saved. The lion cub had roared, and the world had listened. The journey had just begun. The concrete jungle was ready to bloom.